Hello everybody, my name's Ian McCall. We're going to have a little look at parakeratosis. Now, it refers to retained keratinocytic nuclei in the stratum corneum. So it's seen quite commonly in proliferating keratinocytic disorders such as psoriasis and in malignancies, keratinocytic malignancies such as Bowen's and even solar keratosis. The thing about these nuclei is that they're flattened and they run parallel to the epidermal surface. Let's have a little look at this particular example. Now, this is the example of Bowen's disease. You can see the disorganization of the epidermis here. And when you get up to the overlying stratum corneum, you can see the retained nuclei, the parakeratosis here. There's a fair bit of retained material next to it, I think, to the surface of this. But these are the flattened nuclei that we're talking about in parakeratosis. Now, a similar pattern is seen perhaps in psoriasis. We might just look at an example of psoriasis here. Here's an example of psoriasis. You can see the psoriasiform acanthosis here, the club-shaped arete ridges, some of them joined together, the thin suprapapillary plates. But when you look up at the overlying stratum corneum, you see the flattened nuclei. Also, you see there that there's very little in the way of stratum granulosum. And it's usually a confluent parakeratosis in psoriasis. And if we just go in, you can see those flattened nuclei running parallel to the epidermal surface. So this is classic parakeratosis. Also commented here that parakeratosis usually equates to surface scale. So if you're thinking of what diseases might cause this, then think of the red scaly diseases. The PM's pet, a little cat called Petal, psoriasis, eczema, tinea, annular erythema, lupus, and pit rosea, pit vesicular, pityriasis rubra-pilaris. The M was for mycosis fungoides, a little S for solar or perhaps for syphilis. Now, we've commented down there that sometimes the pattern of parakeratosis can be helpful. And it's certainly confluent in Bowen's disease, as we showed there, and in this case of psoriasis. You know, that's confluent right along the surface of the specimen here. All parakeratosis and virtually absent stratum granulosum. Same sort of thing in Bowen's disease. Then we've said here in solar keratosis, the parakeratosis is often alternating. In other words, you may have an area of orthokeratosis and an area of parakeratosis. We might just look at that virtual slide. This is it here. It's a shaved lesion. And if we go in and look at, say, this area here, you know, you get your abnormal nuclei in the lower 2/3 of the epidermis here. You got normal stratum granulosum. Then you've got areas of layered orthokeratosis here. And as you move along over the area of more atypia, you start to get your layered parakeratosis with your retained nuclei. There's some debris in the surface of this as well, though. And then if we move further along again, we're still parakeratosis all the way there, and then we start to get into areas of orthokeratosis. So that alternating pattern of orthokeratosis and parakeratosis in some superficial spreading type solar keratoses. You might argue there's almost full thickness atypia there, and it's really bones. The next sort of pattern of parakeratosis is the one that's in a heaped up column in a cornoid lamella, you know, of disseminated superficial actinic porokeratosis. This is the example of it here. Normal epidermis, and then you've got this heaped up column. And when we look here, as we go in, there's the heaped up column. of parakeratosis here. You can see it running up from here, and usually there's loss of the stratum granulosum here as well at the base of it, but that's your heaped up column of parakeratosis of a cornoid lamella pointing in the way. And this is a disseminated superficial actinic porokeratosis. If there's little bits of parakeratosis here, then we come to this area here. This is the other part of the cornoid lamella growing up here. Again, no stratum granulosum just underneath it here. So that's disseminated superficial actinic porokeratosis. I'll show you a picture of that. This was from Global Skin Atlas. This is the lesion on the legs. Not the greatest example. There's several here. These ones are more inflamed. There's usually a little, the cornoid lamella is usually around the outside here, a little raised parapet of a castle around the outside of this. We need to get in closer to show that, but the cornoid lamella is out here, and as I say, points in the way. Often with some DSAP, you'll actually see a bit of a lichenoid infiltrate under this area here. If they only biopsy the middle sometimes, or the punch, sometimes it's just reported as a lichenoid keratosis. You need to get the lesion. This one's been shaved, obviously, to show the cornoid lamella here. They heaped up inward pointing areas of heaped parakeratosis in DSAP, porokeratosis. Next pattern we were looking at here for parakeratosis is the checkerboard pattern in PRP, pityriasis rubopolaris. Now, the checkerboard pattern means alternating ortho and parakeratosis both horizontally and vertically. That's why it gets the name of checkerboard. So alternating orthokeratosis and parakeratosis horizontally and vertically. Let's go in and see if we can see that. Perhaps have a look at this one here. Now, there's certainly parakeratosis there, a little bit of orthokeratosis there as far as vertical and horizontal goes. But we should then get another little bit of orthokeratosis along here. You can see the obvious parakeratosis here, the retained nuclei, and then you get an area where it's clear there's no retained nuclei, so there's some orthokeratosis, then back into parakeratosis again, and sometimes you'll see it vertically as well. A little bit of example there, horizontal parakeratosis, and some above it, an area of orthokeratosis. Same there and there. And there. And this area here. So that's the checkerboard pattern in pityriasis rubopolaris. The next pattern is the sandwich pattern. What do we mean by sandwich? Parakeratosis over orthokeratosis and tinea. Let's have a little look at this slide here. And we'll obviously go into this area here. And I think this is what they mean by the sandwich sign. There's parakeratosis, there's orthokeratosis, and some other material in between. That's the sandwich sign. Let me go further along here. That's another example. There may be some retained nuclei, obviously, up there, neutrophils and the like as well. And this is where you'd go looking for fungal hyphae in this area here and in this area here. I think that's an example of the sandwich sign in in a tinea infection. There's another condition called axillary, it's usually flexural axillary granular parakeratosis, but it's perhaps more common in the axillae, where you've got multiple granules in the stratum corneum. Now we've got a virtual slide of it over here. Let's just go in and look. And you can see the extent of the columns of parakeratosis that's running along the surface of this epidermis, and a lack of the granular layer as well, which you often see when you've got heaped up parakeratosis like this. Now, clinically, I'll show you what this looks like here. This is axillary granular parakeratosis. This is what it looks like in the axilla. It may be some sort of irritant reaction from deodorants that are used, and you get retained nuclei. You get retained cellular nuclei on the surface building up like this. These here are equivalent to these lesions that you're seeing here. But this is axillary granular parakeratosis. So these were the various disorders in which we commonly see parakeratosis. Remember, any of the proliferative disorders, so a lot of the PM's petal will show some evidence of parakeratosis, including gutted psoriasis, where it's usually heaped, and in pityriasis rosea, there's little heaped areas of parakeratosis. And then you've got the confluent parakeratosis in Bowen's and ordinary psoriasis. That alternating orthokeratosis and parakeratosis in a solar keratosis. The heaped up column in a cornoid lamella of disseminated superficial actinic. The checkerboard pattern, with horizontal and vertical alternating orthokeratosis and parakeratosis in pityriasis rubra-pilaris. That's sandwich parakeratosis in tinea. Although in the example we were looking at some writting neutrophils as well, I think, in between orthokeratosis and parakeratosis. Probably better looking sandwich line. And then that unusual axillary granular parakeratosis, the heaped up massive granules of parakeratosis that we were seeing there in that unusual, probably irritant reaction in the axilla. Okay, thanks very much.